Comic book, movie, sci-fi, and action thrill. Reviewing new TV shows, we keep it real. Reminiscing the Attitude Era, wrestling at its peak. Nostalgia from the 80s and 90s, memories we seek. Pineapples for our rings, a unique touch. Geek culture in our blood, we love it so much. Geek Blue forever, we love it so much. Geek Blur, where we talk about it all, from superheroes to wrestlers. We stand tall, Ray and Kevin, the dynamic duo in sight. Geek Blur, shining bright, shining bright. Did you hear about Pluto? That's messed up, right? Geek Blur, taking you on a nostalgic flight. From movies to TV, we cover it all. Join us and every week we'll have a ball. Shuffle.
Hey everybody,
What's going on?
welcome to another episode of Geek Blur, live on YouTube, on podcast if you're listening on podcast form. We are going to start the show off with a show and tell. So many geeky things that we could pull off from the shelf. We've been collecting shit for years and now we're whipping it out. So it's time to showcase all the money that we wasted well. C'est la vie, say the old folks. It's Geek Blur Show and Tell. Another month to show off our shit. This month I've decided to just grab my whole entire D&D minifigure collection that I've had for, I don't know, almost a decade now. Just ended a campaign, just started a new one. I will show that off in a couple months when I get that figure. But, first figure I had was this one. It is a fighter figure that I got. One of the first campaigns, my friend Justin made it for me, painted it. Has a flaming sword. Then Justin came up with the idea, actually we both did, of having a fighter figure kind of like Hellboy who threw bombs. His name is Chuck Nitro. And that's a figure he did on Hero Forge. He did that figure and he painted it, I believe. But he throws bombs. You can see a little potion there with smoke coming out of it. Kind of looks like Hellboy, red skin. And then the last campaign that we just ended, I decided to be a Dragonborn. And I made it kind of be like Scorpion from Mortal Kombat. And this is what he looks like. Kind of a cool figure. Nice tail. Kind of got the same garb as Sub-Zero, but I made the character more like Scorpion. He had a dragon companion. This is him, Drake. And then towards the end of the campaign, this is kind of what he looks like. That was his weapon. It was kind of like Scorpion's whip that he has in Mortal Kombat. And then, of course, the dragon grew wings, became larger, and became a rideable figure at the end of the game campaign that we just ended. We just started a new one. And shout out to all of my D&D compadres who get together every other week to play. Yeah, I'm excited to get into this new game. My new character is pretty damn cool, and I'll talk more about it in a couple months.
Nice. I just have, I got this on Amazon. Superman.
Nice.
The Ultimate Guide to the Man of Steel. It has gold on the sides of the paper, but yeah, get ready for Superman. Obviously, I've been buying a lot of comics, which I need to stop.
Yeah.
But yeah, it basically goes over the story of everything. I mean, we've already talked about comics are great, but they're an expensive hobby. But it's pretty much from the start to, and the Golden Age and all that stuff. And every bad guy has their own stuff. Each age kind of has like its own story type deal.
That's cool. I love those type of books.
Yeah, it's a very good coffee table book, I guess you could say. So yeah, it's good. I've enjoyed reading it, thumbing through it from time to time.
Nice. Yeah, I love those type of books that have the whole entire history of things. I have a
Yeah.
couple Marvel books like that too. But getting into what we watched this week, I'm going to start off talking about Only Murders in the Building. This show is actually doing very, very good this season. Season 4 got renewed for season 5. It was in the news, but we'll talk about it now. But yeah, it's just the comedy timing of everybody on this show. Not only the 3 main, but just everybody, the whole entire ensemble, and plus the special guest stars that they have every year has been fantastic. And I cannot wait to see what's going to happen each week on Hulu on Tuesdays. Rings of Power episode 4. Last week I kind of complained that this show is slow.
Yep.
However, there is a lot of connections to the book, and this week was no exception to that. A character that was cut out of the Lord of the Rings movies by Peter Jackson was cut out from the animated show in the 70s that came out of Lord of the Rings. Tom Bombadil.
Yep.
I'm not really sure
Very
what he is.
Popular character too.
Very
That's the thing about
very,
him.
very,
Yeah.
very popular. Almost the way they treat him is almost like a god, or almost like some sort of a being sent down. He's been there longer than any of the wizards, any of the ancient like elves. He's been there the longest. He's been through the beginning of time. His wife made a really quick, audible appearance as Goldberry, and also Old Man Ironwood. If you read Lord of the Rings, Old Man Willow is kind of lives around Tom Bombadil. He has this Old Man Ironwood in this episode. It's kind of a tree that's sentient, kind of, not like an ent, which you do see ents in this as well. We saw those in Lord of the Rings, but. We see the Barrow Downs and the Barrow-waits, which are also cut out of Lord of the Rings, or a big part of the Tom Bombadil story in that as well, right before Tom Bombadil saves Frodo and the hobbits in the beginning of that book. But and of course, we did see the Ents. If you saw Lord of the Rings, you know those are the tall, talking, walking trees. We see them in this as well. They're kind of pissed, just like they were in Lord of the Rings, because the goblins were destroying the whole entire forest. But we also see Harfoots and now the Stores, another halfling kind of connected to the hobbits. We're not sure what's happening to the hobbits. I'm not even sure if they're in the Shire yet, or if this is kind of the intro to how they get to the Shire. I have no idea. We gotta bring in somebody that actually knows some shit about this, because I don't know. I've read parts of the books. I haven't finished Lord of the Rings, all of them, but.
Maybe Adam or Justin would jump on at the for the finale.
I think so. I think Adam may be watching. I don't think Justin is. I'll have to talk to him and see. But so after all that, I didn't really have a lot to watch this week, because we're just kind of in a standstill right now. So I decided to watch Euphoria, a show that you've been recommending for a while. A show I've been wanting to watch with Zendaya.
Beautifully shot. It makes you feel like a creep. It's great.
Yeah, it does, and. Because all of these kids, it's like the new Hollywood casting call. They're all kids. Like this show, didn't this come out 2018, 19?
I think so. The
something
first
like
season,
that.
Yeah.
All of these kids now are all superstars. Zendaya had already done Superman at this time. She was a Disney star. I mean, not Spider-Man. She was a Disney star back in the early 2000s. Now she's big. She's huge. She's in everything. She was just in that Challengers movie last year.
It reminds me of Atlanta. Because when Atlanta started, like all those were pretty much no names except for Donald Glover, and then by the time they got to season 3, they had to delay season 3 and 4 because they were all so big.
Right, it does remind me of that too, but just the whole entire cast ensemble, all of these kids. The big one in this right now, Sydney Sweeney. I mean, she got her start on that first season, topless. A lot. So if you love Sydney Sweeney, you fucking love this show. Yeah. Who else? What's that other guy that was the lead guy?
Jacob Elordi.
Yes, he was huge in the Oscar buzz last year.
Of a character.
Yes, he's gotten a huge career out of this as well. We'll talk about it more next week when we get into season 2, because I'm gonna watch season 2 this weekend. But the other kid that plays who died? I can't remember his name.
Yeah, I'm blanking on his name too, but Fez is my favorite.
Fez, he is my favorite character too. It sucks that he's gone.
The best, he's awesome.
Yep. But there's one episode in particular that I want to talk about in this season. It's the Chili Cook-Off Carnival episode. If you've seen this show, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. This episode from beginning to end had so much tension, so much built up.
Mm-hmm.
It's just Hunter Schafer in this show is fantastic. Also, like, her relationship with Zendaya throughout the whole entire show has been great so far. I also watched the 2 COVID specials that came out, I believe in 2020 and 2021, or 2021, 2022 for Christmas and New Year's. I don't know if you watched those or not. The very, like, one-sided episodes. The first one is Zendaya sitting in the diner with Coleman Domingo. Did you see that episode?
I don't think I saw
Like
those. I didn't know they were there.
Yeah, they're not in part of the season. They have to search them separately.
Okay.
And the other episode, may be one of the best episodes of Euphoria that I've seen so far. It's all about Hunter Schafer going to a psychiatrist, talking about all of her problems. Sets up a lot of stuff that happened in season 1 and breaks it down a little bit more when she's talking to her psychiatrist a little bit, or therapist, whoever she is. Those are really good, but the Hunter Schafer one was the best. But the whole entire season as a whole has been great. And I finished this on Monday, and I've been holding back to watch season 2 because I want to talk about season 1 this week. Next week we'll get into all of season 2 because I'm probably going to watch it after I get off here tonight.
Season 2 is something. I also really like Ash. Ash is awesome.
Yes, yeah.
Did you see? I can't remember. Is his backstory in season 1 or is that season 2? Did you already see the Ash episode where he came to live with Fez?
No, I have not yet.
Oh, you didn't?
No,
Okay.
that's season 2. Yeah.
Okay.
But that's the other thing I like about this. Two things. The beginning of the series, I don't know if it changes or not, but the episode titles are all rap songs.
Yep.
And every episode begins with an intro or background to a character on the show that you kind of are getting to know. And of course, Zendaya is a big part of that. Hunter Schafer has been a big part of that. I can't remember her name on the show, but it's just such a great show. It's on HBO if you haven't seen it. Some dark stuff in there. Lots of drug use. Zendaya is a drug addict. She's in high school. She can't seem to kick that. Coleman Domingo. We hear a lot about Coleman Domingo. He is great. The episode. If you haven't watched that, go back and watch that this weekend. The Euphoria special episodes. I think they came out right before COVID because they were filming season 2, and it wasn't coming out for like another year. So they did these quick little intro special episodes that were around Christmas time of, I believe, 2021. I think the second season came out 22 to 23. But yeah, this is a great show, and I can't wait to finish it. And we'll talk all about season 3 speculation now that has been delayed over and over again because of what's his name that passed, and then I think another producer had passed as well, or left the show or something. But there's a lot of stuff going on with that. But we'll talk about that next week. We're in the beginning of September. We're going to start off with a couple of football movies. One I've seen before. I'm coming back to revisit it, but one I've never seen before, and I'm glad I did. The Blind Side, starring Sandra Bullock, Tim McGraw, the country singer, Lily Collins, who is the daughter of Phil Collins, Kathy Bates is in this, and Quentin Aaron as Michael Orr. Michael Orr is a real football player. I believe this is early 2000s. You might know more about the whole story of this. He is a football player who kind of lived in a impoverished life. Was homeless a lot, living house and couch to couch, and this family takes him in and kind of doesn't adopt him. We'll get into the true story of this as well because there's a lot of controversy with it, but takes him in and gives him this lavish lifestyle, gives him this just chance to do something and be something. He ends up going to a private school and makes it into the NFL, and I think he's in a couple seasons in the NFL. I don't think he made it.
He was drafted by the Ravens. He was pretty good for a few years.
Yeah. But all about that. I thought the story was fantastic. I thought everything about this movie was great. Looked into it a little bit more. You found out there's a lot of controversy with the actual history of what happened, what they took for creative liberties for the movie. The guy, Michael Orr, wrote a book pretty much denouncing his whole entire family that the movie depicted, Sandra Bullock being the one character, his so-called mother. Just crazy. And he talked a lot about the adoption. It wasn't really an adoption. It was a conservatorship. He's trying to break that now. It was basically to get him into college. into a college that they all supported. I can't remember, was it Oklahoma? I can't remember what it was.
I think so. Yeah, it was one of those
it
schools.
was one of those schools. They tried to get him in, and they had to do a conservatorship to make him part of the family. And then he got investigated by the NCAA, but ended up going in anyway. Family ended up making millions while he made nothing, which is incredible. He made nothing from the movie or the book or anything of his life story. He says his full original story is full of inaccuracy. So yeah. I don't know. I don't know the whole story other than watching this movie this week. I thought the movie was really good. I think the movie itself stands by itself, but if it's full of lies and shit like that, I don't know. But overall, great movie. But I also went back and watched a movie I saw, 20 years. When was this movie? 1996?
Yeah.
Yeah, directed by Cameron Crowe, who, if you know Cameron Crowe, I love Cameron Crowe. Almost Famous, of course. My favorite movie by him is kind of autobiography movie that he did a few years after this. I think the next movie he did. But Jerry Maguire. This movie is just great for the time it was, and it has a lot of one-liners, just became pop culture lexicon early 90s on. And still, some of the shit we still say now, like, show me the money. Cuba Gooding Jr. became a huge superstar because of this movie. Show Me the Money was the big one. The very end of the movie, I'm gonna butcher it, I know I am, but You Had Me at Hello. I mean, that's a big, huge thing. That was in the pop culture lexicon for years. Still is some of this stuff. Movie, of course, stars Tom Cruise right in the peak of his career. Still, I mean, he's still making movies. He's still in the peak, if you want to say, but slowed down a little bit compared to what he was doing in the 80s and 90s. But made Renee Zellweger a star. Kelly Preston, who at the time was she's passed since then, but she's married to John Travolta, of course, a Scientologist in that Scientologist community. Cuba Gooding Jr., like I mentioned. Bonnie Hunt plays the sister of Renee Zellweger. Regina King, I think this might have been one of her first movies as well. She was great in this. She played the wife of Cuba Gooding. Jay Moore, right around the time of Mad TV. I think he was on Mad TV or one of those shows. Jerry O'Connell, another one of his first big, huge movies. Eric Stoltz, he had a really quick cameo in this. Of course, Back to the Future. If you know the history of Back to the Future, he's a big part of this show. Ali Wentworth, who was on In Living Color a few years before that. Ari Spears, he was also on Mad TV. Drew Bledsoe, he was in this. He had a quick cameo. Troy Aikman as well. Glenn Fry, who was friends with Cameron Crowe, he was in this quick cameo. Drake Bell played the young kid at the beginning of this movie who flips off Jerry Maguire. And Jonathan Lipnicki, a kid who is just like Haley Joel Osment that we do not see anymore. When we do, it's always weird. He always has his like a dyed hair or piercings or something weird with this kid. However, he is just a memorable part of this movie. He was a little kid that kind of fell in love with. He became friends with Jerry Maguire. Had a really good repertoire with Tom Cruise throughout the movie. I thought this movie, looking back on it as adults, when I saw this, what were we? Yeah, 13, 14?
It came out in 99, actually, not 96, I believe. It was right before the millennium. Yeah, so we were like 14, 15, yeah.
Seeing it with adult eyes puts it in a whole other perspective, and it just hit me a lot more than it did when I was younger. But movie has everything that you'd want. It has it's an R-rated, so it has a little bit of sex, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of love story. The football aspect of it kind of to the background, but there's a little bit of it in here as well. But yeah, just a great movie. If you've never seen Jerry Maguire, go ahead and watch that. And the same with The Blind Side. It's a great movie too. So we're going to talk about a brand new movie that we watched. You watched it a few weeks ago. I just watched it last weekend. Trap. M. Night Shyamalan's movie. Brand new movie. The trailer pretty much gave up the whole concept of this movie out. However, if you know Shyamalan, you know his filming style, you know what he does. There's a little bit of hints and mysteries throughout. And of course, this movie stars Josh Hartnett. I used to talk about we don't see him anymore, but now we've seen him everywhere. He's been in a few big movies in the last year or two, starting with Oppenheimer last year. But Also, Salika Shyamalan,
Yep.
who was the daughter of M. Night, was the lead singer of this kind of a Taylor Swift slash Ariana Grande slash concert performer, who ends up being the whole main part of this story. And Haley Mills plays who, if you know, Miss Bliss, the original Saved by the Bell. She was Miss Bliss. She was also in Parent Trap, way Disney movie, way back in the 60s. But she's in this as well. She kind of plays a criminal psychologist who is trying to figure out who is this guy that is in this. He's obviously, they know that a serial killer is in this stadium. He has somebody held hostage. They found without getting into too many spoilers, they found a concert ticket where one of his victims was taken. It was like a little piece of a concert ticket, and they kind of pointed at where he was going to be that night. So they blocked off the whole entire concert with police officers. He's locked in there with his daughter, who I thought she was great in this movie as well. Oh, yeah. But they locked off the whole entire place trying to find this killer, and he has to try to figure out how to get out of there without being caught. Overall story is great. The music in this, I think Shyamalan's daughter did a fantastic job. I think she wrote everything. I know she performed it. I think she wrote it as well, helped write it. But overall, Trap was a good movie. One of Shyamalan's good ones. Kind of leaves it wide open at the end too. And I remember we speculated about 6 months ago about this movie when we first saw the trailer for it. About what if this was connected to one of his other movies, The Sixth Sense?
Right.
What if? And you the thing about this movie, there is one point in the movie where he sees this image of his mother. He keeps seeing her coming up back and forth. That imagery kind of reminded me of Haley Joel Osment seeing those ghosts back in the day.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that'll ever connect to that. But that would be a really cool connection to that universe. If all of his serial killers and Haley Joel Osment came back, I wonder if he would ever do something like that. You see Haley Joel every once in a while here and there, but it'd be great to see him come back in the Shyamalan
last time I saw him
universe
was
in some way.
the Entourage movie. I think that was the last time I saw him in something.
Yeah, he's been doing stuff like that, little cameos here and there.
Trap's good. I like how they only show you like half of the movie in the trailer. Like there's an entire half of the movie you don't see.
Yeah,
because they just showed the concert, and that's literally only like the first half of the movie, which is cool. I enjoyed this movie a lot.
It doesn't have a huge Shyamalan ending, like the big, huge twist and turn. It's kind of just a straightforward thriller. But like I said, it does leave it open for maybe a sequel later on, so we'll have to wait and see. So, Alien Romulus just came out. We are going to talk about that when it hit streaming. You loved it. So I've watched Aliens because I actually watched them over at your house. Yeah. That's why I watched them. Haven't watched them since, so I don't. I've watched Prometheus. I've watched Alien Covenant, which came out last 5 years ago.
Yep.
I understood the movies, of course, but there's a lot of little glimpses, a little Easter eggs in those movies that I'm looking forward to getting into. That's why I'm doing this Alien watch. I'm doing this before Alien Romulus comes out, so we can kind of get a little bit of the background before we get into the big talk of the new movie that everybody's raving about, including you. So I started off rewatching Alien 1979. Of course, this was directed by Ridley Scott. Right after Star Wars, you get a lot of the special effects from Star Wars were kind of utilized in this as well. I don't think ILM had anything to do with this movie. Did Stan Winston have something to do with this?
I believe he did the models, I think.
The Alien, right, okay. Yeah. But this movie did get an Academy Award for Best Visual Effects in 1980. Of course, stars Sigourney Weaver. She's in all of these 4 movies we're going to talk about today. And Tom Skerritt. Ian Holm, who is a geek icon, of course, Lord of the Rings. He played Bilbo. Harry Dean Stanton, you may not know the name, but you know the faces in every 80s, 90s, 2000s. I think the last movie I remember him being was in The Avengers, maybe. And John Hurt, another pop culture sci-fi hero. I mean, he was in Hellboy. He was in this, of course. The iconic scene of this was recreated in Spaceballs, by the way, of the alien coming out of the chest bursting out of him. But this movie, I remember I liked it a lot. and I liked it just as much as watching it the second time. And of course, I'm looking for the little pieces. I'm looking for the name of the ship. I'm looking for the name of the company that's running this all. I'm looking for all of that stuff, and I know that all plays a part into Alien.
Romulus? Yeah.
Yes, Romulus. So then I went back. A few years later, Aliens came out, directed by James Cameron. This was 1986. For some reason, Ridley Scott didn't come back. I don't know why.
Yep.
But James Cameron came in. Did he do
I told you the story about this, right? I told you the story about how he got the job. Okay. So they called him in because he had only done Piranha 2 at that point. So they called him in for a meeting.
He did Terminator.
Terminator,
right?
yes.
Yeah. Okay.
He actually got this job before doing Terminator. He said he would do this, but only if he got to do Terminator first. Okay. So they called him to the pitch meeting, and this was after Terminator was already they called him back in, and Terminator had already been a success at that time, and they go, "What can you do to make this franchise turn this franchise into something?" He just walked up. They had a chalkboard. He just walked up. He wrote Aliens. Stepped back, looked at the chalkboard, drew an S to make Aliens. Looked at it again and drew a $sign on the S and just sat down.
Wow.
And they go, huh. And he basically said, this is what I need for a budget, because he had already been doing pre-prod and Terminator at that point. And he was like, this is what I think I need for the budget. This is what I think I need. And he goes, this is my idea. And they go, okay. And they gave him the money to make the movie, but he got to make Terminator 1 first.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, we talked about Terminator in length last week, but... yeah, James Cameron came in, directed the hell out of this movie. For some, this is an iconic sci-fi movie. A lot of people's top sci-fi list. I like this movie, but I think Alien. I just like it because we mentioned it a lot lately, how the Jaws aspect of movies, how you have this alien chasing you through this small little area. That was terrifying in the first movie.
Yes, very claustrophobic. It's very similar, honestly, to Terminator, where Terminator 1 works as a great neo-noir kind of a horror movie in ways. The way that the Terminator is stalking him, while Terminator 2 is a great action movie. It's kind of the same thing. The first Alien's a much better just straight up horror film, claustrophobic, terrifying film. Where this is just it has those elements, but it also has action to it, way more action in it.
Yeah, it opens up the whole world, too.
Yep.
This movie brings back Sigourney Weaver, of course.
Yep.
Michael Biehn, which we talk about throughout the show all the time.
And you know who was originally cast in that character, right?
No.
Dexter's dad. He had already shot for 3 weeks.
I can see that.
He got caught in a hotel room with crack. And so he got deported.
I've heard that story.
They're filming in Europe, and he got deported.
Okay, I have heard that story. Okay. Paul Reiser, this is right before Mad About You, right around that time. Bill Paxton, another one of his beginning roles, I think between this and Weird Science. Yep. Mark Rolston, he was in Rush Hour, he was in Shawshank.
Yes.
He was the bad guy, one of the bad guys in Shawshank. And Lance Henriksen as Bishop, and he comes back a couple of times. And I believe he is in the video games as well. The other thing that they do great on these Alien movies, before we go any further, the androids. At this time, we didn't. I mean, the only things we really had, we had robots in Star Wars. We had the one, but they didn't have any real android, human-like robots. And I think Anne Holm played a great one in Alien, and so did this guy, Lance Henriksen, played Bishop. Anne Holm in the first movie kind of became the bad guy, and this one, Lance Henriksen had to prove himself that he wasn't as bad, that the technology wasn't bad, and had to get the trust of Sigourney Weaver's character Ripley because she is so pissed off at what happened in the first movie. But also, I wanted to bring this up too. Newt, new character brought in this movie. She says in this movie they mostly come at night. Mostly. I've heard that before. Had to look it up because I've heard it way before this movie, and of course, it was from South Park. It was one of the first seasons of South Park where Eric Cartman is talking to his cat during the cat orgy episode, talking about they mostly come at night. Mostly.
Yep.
The cat. But yeah, it's a great movie. I think I like the first one a little bit more. Kind of like you mentioned last week with Terminator. Terminator 1 just sets up everything. I think Alien does the same thing for this series as well.
Yeah.
I think I may like that a little bit more than Aliens. I do like the character build up in this movie, Aliens, better.
I think
plus
the whole
it's shot like
I think
hell.
Aliens has way better characters in general.
Yeah.
How different they are. All the army people. I mean, you had the girl that played John Connor's mom was also in Aliens. Like a lot of people that he worked with or had ended up working a lot with, like Michael Biehn. He literally called him after the other guy got caught like with drugs in the hotel room because they had already finished Terminator, and he's like, "Can you come do this part for like a couple of months?" And he was like, "Yeah, sure." So like, I think the casting this one, and Paul Reiser is such a slimy piece of shit in this movie too.
Yeah.
I think the cast is better in this, but I enjoy Alien a little bit more, and that's also because I'm also a huge horror fan. So,
yep. And a lot of this movie, I was hoping we see some of these characters again. And then we get into Alien 3 in 1992, where it's a continuation of Aliens. However, the beginning of the movie, she lands in a prison, and everyone on the ship except for her dies, including Newt, including Michael Biehn, who doesn't come back. I have a feeling that I know you know more of the history of the series. I don't know if you want to talk about it now, but what was supposed to happen here?
I think it was just going to be Cameron didn't want to come back, so he didn't come back.
Okay.
And so they changed everything around. And of course, a few years ago, we were supposed to get Neil Blomkamp's Alien 3. This was around 2010. And that was going to have Newt, who had only ever been, like, actors that played Newt had only ever been in Aliens. And Michael Biehn was going to come back. And they're basically going to do that whole, we're going to erase all the sequels after the second one, like they did with, like, Halloween and stuff like that. But that got canceled because Ridley Scott wanted to do fucking Prometheus.
Right, okay.
Oh, God, that boils my blood. Even though I do like Prometheus for the lore, I would have much rather had Neil Blomkamp's Alien 3.
Yeah. Especially after watching this movie. Alien 3...
This movie
is
does
the
have a soft
equivalent
spot
of
in my heart. I do like this movie because I was very young when I saw it, and it's very nostalgic for me. But I'll let you get into your review.
Film debut, director of a lot of movies, including one of your favorites, David Fincher, of course, Fight Club.
Fight Club 7, Social Network is one of my favorite movies of all time. Yeah, I fucking love David Fincher.
Social Network is a great fucking movie. Curious Case of Benjamin Button, another great movie. Girl with a Dragon Tattoo, another great movie. He did House of Cards too on Netflix. He was a directing producer of that. But of course, Seven is just a fucking great movie. Zodiac's a great movie too. He did that. But this is his first film debut. Sigourney Weaver returns. Like I mentioned, when the ship landed, Newt was killed. Hicks is killed. Lance Henriksen returns as Bishop, has a cameo in the middle of the movie. In the end, he comes back as well as the live version of the person that the robot was based off of. Charles Dance, who is Tywin in Game of Thrones. We've seen him in a whole bunch of other stuff. He plays kind of a weird love interest until the middle of the movie. And Charles S. Dutton, who was in Rudy, Meneses.
Love that guy.
He's in everything. Yep. But he is great in this as well. I like the characters in this movie.
Yep.
But it felt like everybody was dying off way too soon, way too quick.
Yeah.
I know I know that's what these movies are all about at this point in 1992.
And it was very much a studio movie. David Fincher had very little control.
He's
pretty much
denounced. He's denounced it. I've heard.
Yeah.
He denounced the whole entire movie.
Yeah.
So I wanted to get into all the Sigourney Weaver movies before next week, because next week I'm going to watch the next three. And this movie came out in 1997, Alien Resurrection. And I remember the previews coming out for this movie at the time. We were in middle school, middle of middle school at the time. This was written by Joss Whedon, directed by Jean-Pierre Jeunet, a French director. This is the only American English-speaking movie he ever directed. In French school, I actually brought this up to you earlier. In French class in middle school, we actually watched the movie, the one movie that he is critically acclaimed for, called The City of Lost Children. It starred Ron Perlman, who he brought back. Ron Perlman, of course, from Hellboy. Ron Perlman was in this movie, and a lot of the characters that were in Alien Resurrection were in this movie too. He recycles a lot of those same actors in all of his movies. Including the guy in the wheelchair. The reason why I looked this up is because I've seen that guy in the wheelchair before, And I was actually thinking, wait a minute, I know this is a French director. Maybe that's the same guy that was in that movie, because we watched it in French class probably 20 years ago. And sure enough, it was the same character that was in that with Ron Perlman in the mid-90s. I think that movie came out in 1995. But this movie brought in, like I mentioned, Ron Perlman, Brad Dourif, who was in Chucky. He was in Lord of the Rings. He played one of the crazy guys in that. Michael Wincott, the bad guy from The Crow. He's in a lot of stuff too, but I remember that. And Winona Ryder. This is right after all the stuff with Tim Burton, of course, in the early 90s. But this movie just was, if everything else, if we were going up a steep hill, we got to Aliens 3, we were kind of pillowing off the top of the hill. Alien Resurrection is the steep climb down, but not really a climb, sliding, falling, and crashing.
Alien Resurrection is to this franchise what Batman and Robin was to Batman.
Yes. It ruined Ripley.
You get that fucking great shot of Ron Perlman on the ladder where he just goes, when he leans back and he has the guns and he just shoots the alien. That's a dope shot. And you get the aliens in water. So they tried some new things here. It did not work. 1997 cash grab. It just screams that.
This was the epitome of what a studio takes control of a whole entire franchise and just wants. At this point, it's not action figures. At this point, it could be. I don't know, but it's more of just for the fun of it, just fuck with something. And that comic book movies have had that history of that too, but it kind of reeled that in a little bit. But it's sad to see this happening. It happened a lot in the 90s, and this is just the case of what happened with this movie too. Mm-hmm. But I think what they did to the Ripley character was horrible. This is 200 years after she died. She did die in Aliens 3. But this is 200 years after that. They cloned her. We're not really sure how she was cloned, considering she was burned in a pit of fire in the third movie. But they cloned her. They cloned her with an alien inside of her. So they cloned her as she was pregnant, which does not make any sense in a medical standpoint, even if cloning was a real thing, like it actually happened. But they cloned her, they cloned the alien, they kept birthing, they kept trying to get, she's the 8th iteration of the clone, Sigourney Weaver in this movie. And there's a whole bunch of aliens that have been birthed, and it's just a wacky fucking movie. And what they did to her character, they kind of made her like a hybrid character, which is weird. So it's just a trash movie. I wanted to get this out of the way. I wanted to get the Sigourney Weaver movies out of the way. I know that was such a period of time with this franchise, and it took a whole turn. So next week we're going to talk about Alien versus Predator, which I think I went to the movies and saw with you. I wouldn't have seen that on my own.
I've never seen it. So.
I saw it somewhere. Maybe I went with somebody else, but I'm going to talk about Alien versus Predator. We're going to talk about. I think there was 2 Alien versus Predators. There's one that came out in 2007.
Yep.
And then the movie, like you mentioned, was rebooted to a prequel, Prometheus, in the early 2010s. And then Alien Covenant was a sequel to that. Michael Fassbender came back for those movies, did a fantastic job playing David. I remember that part of the movie. But I want to see the connections between that and everything else. The other thing I got from this, it would have been great to see. I know they did it in comic book form. It would have been great to see the Terminator versus Aliens. I know they did that in comic book. But yeah, overall, beginning of the franchise is great, and then it just took a steep fall towards the end. But I do like Sigourney Weaver. I understand why she's kind of like the sci-fi queen. Everybody wants her for all their sci-fi movies. Of course, James Cameron kept using her over and over again in the Avatar movies now. So, yeah. You want to talk about one more thing before we get into it?
This is something that's like 2 years in the making. Is my Bond watch. Ever since I signed up for Letterboxd, I wanted to watch the Bond movies because I've never watched them in a row like you did a few years ago. You did that 5 or 6 years ago, way before we started the podcast.
5 years ago. Yeah.
I never did it from start to finish, and I always just seen random movies. So I'm doing it from start to finish. So this week I watched Dr. No. I'm probably going to do 1 to 2 a week, depending on what's going on in my life. Probably bang it out a lot more once work ends in a few weeks. But yeah, Dr. No, the very first James Bond film, has great Bond girls in Sylvia Trench and Honey Rider. great names too. Obviously, Sean Connery's debut in America as an actor. He was a steel worker before this. Got the job as Bond. Ian Fleming hated the choice of him as Bond. Could not stand the choice of him as Bond. The guy Broccoli basically had him and one other person up for the role, and went to his wife, and he basically was like, "What do you think?" And she's like, "He's one of the sexiest men I've ever seen, and that's why he got cast." And of course, Sean Connery famously won Sexiest Man on Earth when he was like 70 or something. Remember that? People magazine. But yeah, this movie's awesome. I love all the Bond movies, even the bad ones. I gave it a 3 out of 5 on Letterboxd. The first Bond Lair was awesome. The bad guy has no hands. Really enjoyed it. Just like an hour and a half classic spy thriller. It's not like obviously the action-packed movies that we ended up getting with Daniel Craig and whatnot, but very good movie. It's weird though watching a movie that was made in the 60s when you watch a lot of movies that come out now. Like, it's a whole different aesthetic. The way that everything's filmed is completely different.
Yeah.
Like Bond has that like one thing where like to find out if somebody was like in his closet, he like took a strand of hair and he like put it over the thing, and then he saw the hair was gone.
Yeah.
And, so it was a lot of fun, a lot of camp. So yeah, I'm looking forward to watching probably one or two this week. Also, I'll probably watch one tonight. But I just wanted to talk about that. Well, you had all this other stuff to talk about that I watched none of.
Yeah,
because I've seen it all before.
You've seen all this before.
It's been probably 20, 25 years since I've seen a lot of the Bond movies. Like I probably haven't seen any outside of GoldenEye from even the Pierce Brosnan era since they were in theaters. So it's been a long time for a lot of these movies. So to watch them now as a fully grown adult and not as a 18-year-old kid or whatever is going to be an experience, I'm sure.
Well, if you want to, we're talking about this on the podcast, but I kind of want to watch these two again.
Okay.
If you want to do one a week, we just plan on one a week, and we'll be done in a half a year. Want to just do that?
Well, I want to do more than one a week. I want to do like one or two a week.
Okay.
But I'll let you know which ones I'm watching, and then if you want to watch that one, you can.
Like,
or whatever.
I definitely want to go back, and I want to watch a Goldfinger.
Yep.
I like that movie. I want to watch the George Lazenby one too.
Yep.
So we can get to those. Let me know, and I'll watch at least. Okay. Let me know which ones are worth watching again, and I'll watch.
I'll be doing one a week at least until I'm done with work. But yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. So that being said, let's get into the news. And it's not a news segment without the trailer roundup. I got some good trailers this week. First one is a weird movie set in the Poohniverse, which we talk about every so often. Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare. This trailer looked fucking weird. Same campy shit that you got from the Poohniverse movie, the Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. Peter Pan kind of weird in this movie. We're not sure. I think he's flying in one part of it. We're not really sure the sci-fi aspect of this. I haven't watched Blood and Honey, so I don't really know what that's all about either. But I know these are kind of live-action horror remakes of those movies. So
yeah, you fucking let me watch Blood and Honey, and you skipped out on it, you bastard. I tell you for that one. Fuck. Blood and Honey. But this movie,
for
those wondering,
this movie is coming out the same year as Bambi: The Reckoning. Pinocchio Unstrung is currently being filmed, I believe, and it's going to be all connected to everything, and they're of course going to be doing that big Poohniverse Avengers
like movie at the end. The Mickey Mouse one also part of this?
No, that's totally separate.
Fucking yay!
Yeah, Boxcar Willie or whatever his name is. But yeah, we got a new trailer for Minecraft. This actually looks really good. I don't know if you've seen I don't know if you've played Minecraft or not. It's a kind of a building.
Yeah, I know what it is.
I used to play hours and hours building on this. But yeah, it stars Jack Black, stars Jason Momoa with a weird fucking hair color choice.
Twitter blew up over this trailer, and not in a positive way. Not in a positive way.
Although it depends on who you're talking. It depends on who you're talking to, because I've heard a lot of people who love this game love the trailer and the way it looks. It looks a lot like the game. It's all squared.
Well,
it's just
creator said the movie
choices.
worked for that, like the game.
Yeah.
So people are
Makes
just
sense.
out on. I mean, a lot of people are just clown on Momoa for how he
Yeah.
looks now, especially a certain fan base.
Yes.
They clown on the chick from Peacemaker, right? She's in this.
Yeah.
Just some article was just completely racist about her inclusion. They obviously clown on Jack Black because he doesn't look anything like the character he's supposed to.
Steve, yes.
So yeah,
But overall, I'm kind of looking forward to it because I did play that game a lot in the early 2010s. So I know you saw this probably before Alien Romulus. We saw the really quick teaser trailer of Alien Earth. This comes out on Disney Plus in 2025. And I don't know much about this other than they're going to Earth. And that has never happened in the franchise as far as I know.
correct.
But yeah, comes out on Disney Plus, which I thought it was an FX. Maybe it still is an FX thing.
And it's by I'm forgetting the showrunner and director's name, but it's by somebody who's really fucking good. So I'm looking forward to it.
Okay.
I can't think of the guy's name.
They readjusted the trailer for Megalopolis. We got a new poster for that as well, starring Adam Driver, Giancarlo Esposito, a few other Aubrey Plaza, Shia LaBeouf. We talk about this all the time. The trailer that created the news buzz a couple of weeks ago with all the fake quotes on it. Well, they took all the quotes out and just released the trailer pretty much without the quotes. So we actually saw a brand new trailer. This movie comes out at the end of the month. Still don't know what the movie is about. Time travel, multiversal, who knows? I don't know. He has some sort of control of his environment. We're not sure how it happens, the Adam Driver character, but set in this kind of metropolis, megalopolis type of world. Francis Ford Coppola. Yeah, that's all we know. So we'll have to wait and see on that. Brand new trailer for Wicked. I'm excited for this. Comes out on Thanksgiving. Some new footage. Looks great. New trailer came out today for Wolfman.
Yes.
Continuation. Blumhouse. Director, the guy who directed The Invisible Man.
And what was his big break? He was
I have
one
no
half
idea.
this. He was the guy in Saw, the guy in the basement
Okay.
with Carrie Ells. Lee Woodhull. It's James Wan's like best friend, schoolmate, classmate. Yeah, he did The Invisible Man, and now he's doing his own little universe of this stuff. It looks like since the actual universe by Universal was trash and no one liked it, and they cast Tom Cruise in the Mummy movie that was fucking awful. But
Is
yeah,
this-
Lee is so good.
so-
he is such a good director.
So this isn't part of the Universal Monsters, or just a retelling of the
they
Universal
canceled
Monsters?
all that. They canceled everything after like the first movie. So this is just him doing
Right.
his own Wolfman interpretation. For,
Okay. Okay.
Is it A20 Blumhouse? You said, yeah. So it's just him doing just the same thing as he did with Invisible Man, which I thought was a fantastic movie. I love Lee.
It is, but
he's great.
by the way, it is Universal because I see the little Universal picture on
Okay,
the right-hand corner.
they had to have something.
So they're
to do with it, yeah.
retelling. They're
Yes.
retelling the whole Universal monster story.
With
So
him.
that's actually cool
So,
with him. Yeah.
And they're low
So
budget. Yeah.
the Creature from the Black Lagoon must be being done by Blumhouse too. I don't remember. We talked about it last week, but they are doing that too. So yeah, they're going into the whole
Yeah,
universe.
James
Cool.
Wan
We'll
has
talk
his
about-
own deal with Universal, so it's probably his studio through Universal, not Blumhouse. But yeah, it's all going
Okay.
to be connected.
Okay, well, we'll talk about that later. Mr. McMahon, brand new full trailer of this documentary. It
That's
comes
a-
out at the end of the month. I cannot wait for this documentary. It's the one thing I'm looking forward to this month. But yeah, it's just Vince being Vince, and then of course the news broke in the middle of filming of all the controversy that came out last year. So I cannot wait to watch this. I think wrestling community is excited as well. I don't think WWF is too excited about it right now, but oh well, fans are gonna love
No,
it.
I think
Eat that shit up.
I think they're going to be very excited about it because what they're going to basically do is take this
Oh,
and be
they're
like, it's not run like this anymore. He's not in charge type shit. Because remember,
Yeah.
they go to Netflix in January, so to have this be just a hit piece on them
you're
wouldn't
right.
look good for Netflix either. So
You're right.
they're probably going to go very hard on Vince McMahon. They'll probably have an extra episode they didn't have already planned, where they basically just renounce everything that he's ever done.
Oh, wow.
Is my guess something like that? I'm not sure. I don't think
Well-
it'll be the same ending they had planned when he was still part
Right.
of it.
I don't think you're right. I don't think so too. Also, we got to remember this was directed by the guys who did Tiger King.
Yes.
They're known for that controversy at the end, like
Yep.
kind of blowing up the dust on the whole story.
Yep.
So we'll have to wait and see. Weekend box office last week, Deadpool and Wolverine won the box office with 15 million. Alien Romulus 9.3 million, and it ends with us at 7.4 million. Not bad for the end of summer, Labor Day weekend. Deadpool and Wolverine for the whole weekend made $19.4 million. The movie not out on digital, no word yet on when it's going to be out on digital, but I'm looking forward to it because I want to see it again. But it also surpassed $600 million in the domestic box office sales. Yeah. So huge movie for
Disney's
for
the
Marvel.
one studio that doesn't put things out immediately. Like it'll even be out of theaters for it could be out of theaters for 4 months before they even think about putting it out digitally. The way Disney does their stuff.
Yeah, the timeline for the Marvel movies is usually about 3.5 months.
Because
probably by November.
Guardians came out in May, so they'll probably have this out Thanksgiving. Guardians came out in May, and it was on Disney Plus, or no, it was on digital sometime in October, and Disney Plus was November. So it'll probably be Thanksgiving-ish.
I'm kind of pissed because I know a lot of people didn't watch this show, but if you've watched Sandman on Netflix, this movie was set in that universe of Sandman, and I don't think a lot of people knew that, or this TV show. Dead Boy Detectives was canceled, aired a whole season last year. It came out on April 25th. It was great. I actually talked about it on the podcast. And I was hoping we'd see a second season because it did set up for it, but nope, Netflix did cancel it. We still have Sandman coming, so we're not out of the Sandman universe completely on Netflix. But it just sucks. Netflix does that a lot with shows that you like. They cancel it. And you've been seeing that a lot more, not with just Netflix, but streaming in general. You've been seeing a lot of shows being canceled. We talked about Acolyte. A blemish on Star Wars. You never hear about something Star Wars being canceled. However, it did not take the Star Wars community by storm like they hoped. And I don't know if everybody can blame Kathleen Kennedy. You can blame whatever you want for that show, but it just did not work, did not hit the way all the other Star Wars stuff had hit in the past before Disney had taken over. I wanted to bring this up. We just talked about Vince McMahon, but I wanted to bring this up because you brought it to my attention, and then it took the internet by storm. Hulk Hogan went on Jake Paul's, or is it Jake or Logan Paul's podcast, and I don't know what he's promoting. I don't know what he's doing, but he has a lot to say for some reason. I think it's because he's not in the limelight anymore, so he wants to stir up controversy.
He's been all over the Trump circuit too, but it looks like
that too.
In the photo, it looks like he has a beer in his hand, so he might be promoting. I think he has a new beer coming out.
Okay, that maybe
they're going to be selling at Walmart, so that might be it. But yeah.
Oh, okay. But he compared himself to Chris Benoit, claiming that fans are very forgiving. Now, if you know the history about Hulk Hogan a decade ago, of course, the sex tape came out with Bubba the Love Sponge wife. That was that. But a little bit after that, a racist tape of him saying the N-word to his daughter Brooke on the phone came out, and he pretty much canceled him. And then he got reinstated back in the WWF.
I thought it was his son who was in jail at the time for killing that kid.
Maybe it was. Yeah,
I think that's what it was. But he was speaking in Carney, so I didn't think it was a big deal. So it's just
Well, he was speaking in Carney, except for that one word was not in Carney. I remember listening to it. Yeah, you can't put that in Carney. But the exact quote that he said on the podcast: "If Chris Benoit can do the crap that he did, and the fans still love him, they're very forgiving." And then he starts laughing. I made some major mistakes in my personal life. They're very, very forgiving. They forgive you. What? What is he talking about? Comparing himself to Chris Benoit, who killed his family. Hogan is out there, very much out there. He was posting this week. I don't know if I sent it to you guys on our chat on Facebook, but he had posted a picture on Instagram of him playing the guitar. I think I had it on one of our pictures in the beginning of the podcast. And he asked on there, what band do you think I played for back in the 80s? He's kind of him playing the guitar and stuff. And of course the notorious thing was him being the lead singer or the lead guitarist for Metallica when we talked about that in the beginning of the podcast. But Hulk Hogan is a funny person. I don't think he means to be. It's just
no. He's a piece of shit.
He is a piece of shit, though. Speaking of pieces of shit, well, without getting into the political part of it, The Apprentice releases on October 11th, 2024.
To be fair, he was a piece of shit before he got into politics.
Yes, he was. And I think he would even say that he was an asshole back then. I don't think he'd have any problem saying that. Nope. Although he has an ego on him, so maybe he would. But this movie is all about Donald Trump, all about him, the art of the deal, I believe. I don't know who directed this. It comes out on October 11th. But yeah.
On what service? What's it coming out on?
I have no idea. I didn't look it up.
Probably Peacock.
Probably the Cock, yeah.
I just say that because it's. I think that's when the show aired on. So.
Yep.
Just a guess.
Joey Chestnut and Kobayashi happened on Labor Day. And Joey Chestnut annihilated Kobayashi 83 to 67.
Best athlete
beat his
of our
ass.
generation.
Yep, in 10 minutes, ate 83 fucking hot dogs.
Oh.
And I know the one rule that they changed through this competition and the one that they do on 4th of July is you couldn't wet your hot dog in water. You had to do it dry. And I know a lot of people do that kind of
more difficult. How did he fucking do that?
It sogs down the roll, so it's easier to chew. But
saying,
I think it would make it heavier with water. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying though, like I feel like it'd be way harder to eat it if you couldn't do that. But you could drink at the same time, I'm guessing. So you wash it down. But yeah.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, but Joey Chestnut, reigning champion, even when he's not in the 4th of July eating contest. Mentioned it earlier. Only Murders in the Building renewed for season 5 on Hulu. Excited for that. Reacher, a show I'm looking forward to getting into probably in the next year or so. A spin-off series is currently in development on Amazon Prime. It's going to be starring one of the female leads of the show. They're currently writing it. It's going to be coming out on Amazon in the near future. Twilight. I don't know if you've seen any of the movies. Movie. I don't know what you've seen any of them. First movie was pretty good. It actually got me into the franchise, and then I slowly started losing interest when the movies got weird. Especially the second movie, I did not like it. But Netflix are going to be doing a Midnight Sun animated series of Twilight. Midnight Sun is a retelling of the whole entire Twilight story. Midnight Sun is a retelling story through Edward's eyes rather than through Bella's eyes. Who knows? Sparkly vampires, not my vampires. I like them with fangs and eating blood and killing people at night and sparkling in the sunlight is weird to me. So, Keke Palmer set to star in a remake of The Burbs, a movie I've never seen. It's on my list of watching very soon, starring Tom Hanks. Came out in the 80s. Story follow. It's going to be her kind of doing a gender reversal role as the lead of this series. It's going to be produced by Seth MacFarlane. So, South Park will come back in 2025, and they're going to be skipping the election coverage on purpose. They don't want to get into it. They pretty much said what else. What can we say that we haven't already said? So, George R.R. Martin. I'm sure you know a little bit more about this than I do. Has slammed the House of Dragon Season 2 change from the book, and warns of more toxic changes to come. You want to get into this?
We talked a little bit about this when the show aired. Little bit about the differences is that in the book he has 2 sons, Jaehaerys and Maelor, and instead of having them blood and cheese just kill Jaehaerys, he asked the mother who to kill. And she wants to keep the boy and the girl together, or whatever, because he's also the heir. So he chooses Maelor, and the guy with the knife tells Maelor, "Remember, your mother wants you dead," and kills Jaehaerys. In the show, they just kill Jaehaerys. There was no choice, nothing like that. The implications down the line are kind of big. Maelor has somewhat of an effect. He ends up being a steward for one of the people on the Targaryen side, but he's also only 3 years old.
Right.
And I mean, I don't want to spoil anything, but I think that they could easily just write around him not being involved. He does have a place in the story, but you could remove him at the same time because he's fucking 3 years old. Or they said, the creators have told George R.R. Martin that they haven't decided if he's going to be in the show or not. They just didn't want another young child in this season because there's so many kids now in the show. They didn't want to just have another kid just be there. So I don't know if he's ever going to be in the show or not. To me, the biggest implication was the fact that now he's not traumatized by the fact his mother chose him to die, which plays out a little bit more in the books, but also being 3 years old. He may or may not remember that in real life, the books, whatever.
Right.
Yeah, he took down the blog post almost immediately, but the internet's the internet, so I went through and read it because people screenshotted it. I'm pretty sure HBO told him to take it down. It's odd that because he also put in spoilers for what's to happen. It's weird that he's working with HBO on this and then went out and bashed the show he's technically a producer on. Thought that was kind of weird. Like, it's not like season 8 of Game of Thrones, which he didn't fucking say anything about anyways. All he said was, well, it's going to be different in the book because I'm giving it more time. But yeah. Like the book, you fat fuck.
I know that book is taken for.
It's like 74 years old. This was book released in 2011, the first year of the show. What are we doing here, George?
Ian McKellen approached over playing Gandalf in the new Lord of the Rings films, the Gollum movie, which I'm guessing at this point we can pretty much take to effect that it's going to be a prequel to The Hobbit or a prequel to Lord of the Rings somehow. Of course, Gollum's in it, so it's got to be. But Ian McKellen, of course, Gandalf is an iconic character in those movies. I could not see anybody else playing that character, so what is he, in his late 70s now? I'd hope that he would come back if they do have that character come back. That was supposed
to be Sean Connery, and he didn't understand the material, so he passed on it.
That would have been interesting.
Yeah.
Netflix has acquired a 3-part documentary, a docu-series on This is Zodiac Speaking, which is going to be new insight into the unsolved murder case of the Zodiac Killer. Have you ever seen the movie Zodiac, starring Mark Ruffalo?
Yep. Another
Robert Downey.
Some say
great movie.
Love that movie.
Great movie. This is going to be a documentary talking about all of that coming out on Netflix.
Nice.
New secrets revealed. And
we all pretty much know who it was, but this should be interesting. I love Netflix documentaries like this.
Yeah, me too. Announced today, Ocean's 14 movie is in the works. George Clooney and Brad Pitt will reprise their roles. They're out promoting that Wolves movie that comes out at the end of the month on Apple. So they're talking about bringing back an Ocean's franchise. I've only seen the first one.
You've only seen the first?
I haven't seen 12 and 13. Yeah.
All three they were in 3 movies together, I think, right? 11, 12, and 13, and they had the woman one. Never saw the woman one. All 3 movies with them are fantastic. They're like, if you like the first one, you'll like all 3 of them.
Right. Okay. Cool. Yeah, I'll go back and watch them. Tonight's Show, starring Jimmy Fallon. NBC is cutting the show back to 4 days a week. They're going to be doing reruns on Fridays. Pretty iconic timing. I mean, I believe it was the show that's after him, Late Night, with Seth Meyers. They cut the band out completely. So they're doing budget cuts for Late Night. Not a lot of people are watching Late Night. It's all the quick views next morning on YouTube or Facebook or social.
TikTok.
So nobody's watching. They're not getting the actual TV views for ratings. It's all done on, like you said, TikTok is a big thing.
Now,
so
podcasting, I've noticed a lot of people are doing that now. Like they'll do like their 2-hour show and then just do little clips of each one and put that on their YouTube channel with the full show. It's just people's attention spans these days. Everyone's addicted to their phone, so that's the way she goes.
Quick videos. Unless you're driving, if you're listening to this on a podcast, you're probably driving, and it just makes it a lot easier.
Yes.
Phantom of the Opera adaptation is in the works at Disney Plus. It's going to be a young teen, kind of teen version remake of this franchise. The movie was done in 2005 with what's her name from Shameless and Gerard Butler or not Gerard. Am I saying that right? Gerard Butler. Why does that seem?
Is he in that movie? I never saw the movie.
So. He plays the Phantom in that. Yeah, that was one of his first. That was one of his first movies. That was done before 300, I believe.
Yep.
But yeah, they're gonna be remaking that for a teen audience. Speaking of making a lot of money, earlier, Selena Gomez is officially a billionaire. She has a beauty brand. She made a ton of money off of it, and she actually hit the $1 billion mark today or this week. So not only is she in Only Murders, she's in TV. She's in music. She's in the beauty market. And I think she's a big, huge part of Sephora, if you know the makeup brand where they sell it in the mall. But she's making a sweet penny from that. I want to talk about this. I don't know if you heard about this movie or not. Movie's called The Thicket. Just came out today, and the only reason I'm bringing it up is because James Hetfield is playing kind of like a cowboy-like character, but there's also a whole bunch of other people in it. Peter Dinklage stars him, Juliette Lewis, Andrew Schultz, the comedian's in it as well. I don't know anything about this movie other than James Hetfield's in it, and it's like the only time he's ever acted in anything. But yeah, we're gonna look into that more. Maybe we'll talk about it when we find out more. But Beetlejuice came out last night, debuted last night to $12 million in Thursday night previews. I'm kind of excited to see it, but I'm probably going to wait for it to come out on digital unless I just find the right time to go.
A digital release for it for some fucking reason. It's going to be out by Halloween. They said
that makes perfect sense. So, that makes perfect sense. That makes perfect sense. So
they said mid to late October.
But it's going to do big numbers this weekend for the end of the summer kind of hit. So that'd be cool. Speaking of Beetlejuice, Michael Keaton's going around. Of course, a lot of people like Kate Hudson. Katy Perry's real name is Kate Hudson. Well, Michael Keaton's real name is Michael Douglas. Yep. Because of SAG-AFTRA rules, he had to change his name to Michael Keaton. Keaton is his middle name. But going forward, he wants to change his name to Michael Keaton Douglas. I believe one of the movies that he's going to be doing is coming out the end of the year. The official credits are going to be on the call sheet are going to be Michael Keaton Douglas. So going forward, he's going to be changing his name. I think that's kind of cool. It was always weird that SAG-AFTRA wouldn't let an actor have the same name as a live actor now. But that's been the case for a while. Also, speaking of Beetlejuice, the original Tim Burton was talking about the original idea for Beetlejuice was Sammy Davis Jr. He also was looking at Sam Kinison and Dudley Moore. Sam Kinison huge at that time, but Sammy Davis Jr. I think he was in his 60s when Beetlejuice came out, and he died a few years after that. But of course, Rat Pack member, huge in the 70s, 60s. It would have been interesting to see Sammy Davis playing Beetlejuice, but I think Michael Keaton was the perfect choice for that role. But yeah. Came out today, Entertainment Weekly, Sarah Michelle Gellar and Patrick Dempsey in full 90s Miami cop garb for Dexter Original Sin.
I've been excited for this.
Me too. We see her with a clipboard at a crime scene. We see Patrick Dempsey with a mustache and white hair. And we also see the guy who plays Batista, who's a dead ringer for Batista from the original Dexter show. He
looks just like him.
He looks just like him in the picture, but yeah. I also want to talk about Hunger Games. The guy who was in Challengers, Mike Feist, I don't know how to say his name. There's rumors of him being in the Hunger Games, the next Hunger Games movie, Sunrise of the Reaping, as Hamish Abernathy, who was in the Hunger Games movie, played by Woody Harrelson.
I was going to say, that looks like Woody Harrelson.
It's right there. It's Woody Harrelson, yeah. But yeah, that kind of be interesting. I did like him in Challengers.
I want him to be the Flash. I want him to be Barry Allen.
He would be a great Flash too. Yeah. We'll have to wait and see on that. I wanted to bring this up because I know you got me into Whiplash, movie starring Miles Teller, J.K. Simmons. I watched it over at your house, I believe. They're coming out with a 10th anniversary, coming back to theaters. I don't remember September 20th, the end of the month. So I don't know if you saw this in theater or not. If you would want to see it,
I didn't. No.
It does coming back to theaters. We'll get into the DC news of the week. Creature Commandos officially came out December 5th on Max. Yep. Cannot wait for this. This must be a weekly show. It's HBO and Max, or is this just Max? Okay.
It's so HBO
weekly.
Show. Yep.
This weekly show. We got some new pictures from Entertainment Weekly from the show. We got Frankenstein played by David Harbour, Rick Flag Sr. played by Frank Grillo. We got Dr. Phosphorus, G.I. Robot, The Bride, Nina Mazursky, I don't know who that is, and Rick Flag Sr., of course, in that picture there. And we got another close-up picture of the characters as well. I'm looking forward to this. Beginning of the DCU, so the very intro kind of giving us a taste of what we're going to be getting with James Gunn universe going forward. So looking forward, kind of excited. So, do you think we'll see our first glimpse of Superman in that?
I doubt it.
You doubt it?
I really do doubt it. They'll probably talk about him, is my guess.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I don't think Corn Sweat will be revealed in an animated movie or show. It just wouldn't. I mean, I don't know the story. This is the story might require him to be, but I don't think he will be. It'll be interesting though.
Right. Yeah. Talking about the Batman 2. Batman won't appear in the Penguin spin-off show. They announced that this week. It will not include, in the movie Batman 2, will not include supernatural villains like Gentleman Ghost. They're kind of trying to keep it to a real-life world.
I think it's going to be Court of Owls. And then we're going to get the fantastical. We're going to get the fantastical Batman with James Gunn, which is why I think he's letting this series continue, because it's going to be completely different than what he's doing. So,
same reason we got Joker as well. But Joker 2. But yeah, the new movie is going to be a mystery film again. So everybody's saying Court of Owls, like you just said. So looking forward to seeing what happens there. Joker 2 came out in one of the, I think it was France or somewhere overseas, and previewed, and critics saw it, fans saw it, getting mixed reviews, praising Joaquin Phoenix and Lady Gaga, but the story and overall arc of the movie, I saw one spoiler. If it's truly what happens, I think that may be what the fans are kind of pissed off about.
And
don't want to talk about it here.
The first one didn't exactly blow people away critically anyways, outside of his performance. Like, I think it was only at this was like a 58 on Rotten Tomatoes. I think the first one was like a 68 or something like that. So it's not like the first one was this huge, like, everyone loved it. No, everyone loved his performance, and the movie was just a bunch of tropes with fucking Scorsese painted on top.
But a lot of people are saying that Lady Gaga's character is not fully fleshed out. Of course, not the Harley Quinn they're used to. Right. It's kind of what the reviews are saying, but
yes.
But a little bit of history of what's going on with what happened with the movie while they were filming it. A lot of the times they would have the script, read it, and they end up tearing up the script and starting all over, rewriting as they're going. You hear that a lot about stories that kind of have a bad history, I guess, of bad things happening on the set or bad production happening. So I'm not surprised after hearing the reviews that this was happening as well. So improvising the script going as you're going, it's kind of weird. But we also got our first glimpse of Harvey Dent. I don't know this actor, Harry Lottie, but he's going to be in Joker Folie à Deux. We got a new poster as well. Post that. Brand new poster. We're getting new posters all the time for this, but comes out in a little bit less than a month from now, on October 4th. Peacemaker Season 2 sees Robert Patrick return. We talked about him a lot last week. Of course, he played his father, so very excited for that. The Office has a brief cameo in a DC comic. All the characters from The Office. I don't know who is breaking in. I guess it's a Nightwing comic. But somebody's breaking into the office of Dunder Mifflin, and you see all the characters from The Office in the background. You see Phyllis, you see Dwight, you see Jim, you see Kelly Kapoor, Creed, you see Stanley in there. So yeah, you see Kevin. But yeah. Big rumor this week was James Brolin was reportedly offered the role of Hal Jordan in DC's Lanterns. How do you feel about that?
Not great. I know they mentioned like Chris Pine, Matthew McConaughey, and
Timothy Elephant. I had that in the notes too. That was a big one.
McGregor. Yep.
We're
also apparently on the short list. They're obviously going for an older Hal and a younger John. I wish they wouldn't. I mean, I think Josh Brolin's fantastic. Don't get me wrong, but I do not like him for that role at all. I think Chris Pine would probably be, out of who we've seen on the short list, would be my favorite. My guess is they just brought people in to audition, and just like Nicholas Hoult came into audition for Superman, only to be cast as something else down the line. So we'll see. We'll see.
I don't think it'll be Chris Pine, because I think James Gunn is separating himself from the DCEU universe. Yep. And since he was already part of Wonder Woman, I don't think they're going to want to rehash him as an actor in the universe.
He's just, out of the people they've mentioned, he's just the one I would pick. But it makes sense as to why he wouldn't. Oliphant would be interesting. I would like that a lot too.
I do like him. I like him. I like him a lot. Batman, Adam West. A story came out this week of him allegedly getting kicked out of the city of Aspen, Colorado, banned, not returning for 15 years because he slept with so many women that they banned him from the whole entire city. This was it went viral this week. World Star picked it up. I think it was on TMZ too. But yeah. Venom coming out next month. Venom: The Last Dance. And we got a glimpse of a new character. The Venom Frog. No idea why this character even exists in this universe. I just want this movie to be done and just get it over with. I just hope Sony just implodes, really, but it's not going to happen. Also saw this fan art. I know Ryan Gosling is the number one. I mean, if you've seen, I think the movie was Drive that he came out with a couple years ago. But fan art of him as Johnny Cage or Johnny
Storm, Johnny Blaze. Sorry, Johnny Blaze.
Johnny Blaze. Yeah, I was getting mixed up. But yeah, he looks great. Of course, if you've seen Drive, it's pretty much his character from Drive with a flaming shirt. So, Damian Priest was going to be playing a character in Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. He's going to play the Atuma, who was one of the Atlanteans, who was working for Namor. But he ended up being cut out of the movie because I believe the speculation was WWE didn't want him doing it. And they also heard that with Seth Rollins when he did Captain America: Brave New World. He was cut out of that movie, and I believe it was Becky Lynch was cut from Eternals too. Not sure why. I don't know. WWE kind of likes to keep a close grasp on their characters that they create.
They also like getting producer credits.
Producer credits as well. Yep. Finally, in news, Marvel Studios head of TV and animation doing a lot of promotion for all the stuff that's coming out. Talks about and addresses a chance of a Spider-Man 98. The Spider-Man cartoon from the early 90s was my bread and butter. But the exact quote were, "There's always potential, right? I don't want to close the door on anything, but I think that for now, for the foreseeable future, X-Men 97 will own the 90s. And how much we bring in guest stars or tell stories from other Marvel characters in that era is to be determined." Now, of course, if you saw X-Men 97, this Spider-Man did show up in that show. Very quick glimpse of the character a couple of times, but if anything, this would be the show that I would be looking forward to the most, probably even more than X-Men, because I loved that Spider-Man iteration. I think a lot of people did. And a lot of people hope that if they ever do an Alien symbiote saga again, that it would be more towards that rather than what they've done in live action so far with Venom. So that's it for our show this week. Next week, we're going to talk about Only Murders episode 3, Rings of Power episode 5, Euphoria. We're going to break down season 2. We're going to talk about season 3 and where the show could go from here. Football movies next week. I'm going to talk about the movie School Ties. I'm going to watch another one that I've seen before. I'm not sure yet what that's going to be, but also going to continue an Alien Marathon Part 2 with Alien vs. Predator, Alien Predator Requiem, and Prometheus and Alien Covenant. A movie came out on Netflix today. I saw the trailer to. I sent it to you earlier. Called Rebel Ridge. This has a lot of action in it. It looks good. I haven't heard anything about it, if it's any good or not. We're going to look into that. The movie that comes out next week that I cannot wait to see. Probably not going to go to the theater and see it, but Killer's Game with Dave Bautista. Yeah. That's a big one. And Transformers 1 comes out next week. Yep. You are going to try to see it? Yeah. But that's it for now. Agatha All Along comes out in a couple of weeks. Penguin comes out right around the same time, so excited about that. So we'll get into all of that later. I got a whole list of stuff I want to get into. Some movies I'm going to be watching for the first time. So yeah, thanks everybody, and we will talk to you next week. Peace.
Deuces.
We're the Geek Blurb crew, here to enlighten you. Talking all things geeky, from movies to wrestling to our podcast is the place where you wanna be for all the latest news and nostalgia from the 80s and 90s. We review comic book flicks and sci-fi hits, riding the wave of action movies with all the cool bits. From Iron Man to Star Wars, we cover it all. And when it comes to wrestling, we never drop the ball. Cheap Blurb, we're the kings of the nerds. Rating movies and pineapples, our opinions never blur. Join us each week for a geeky chat with the latest scoop and a dose of nostalgia that. So if you're a fan of the comic book craze, or a lover of sci-fi and all its maze, tune in to Geek Blurb, we're here to entertain.